One bullet, fired by a 19-year-old boy on a random street corner in a city most people had never heard of. And within 6 weeks, the entire world was on fire. This is the story of World War I, the war nobody meant to start, and the war that killed 20 million people. Let's go. The world before the war. To understand why World War I happened, you first need to understand the world that created it. It's 1914. Europe is the most powerful continent on Earth. Massive empires, industrial cities, the most advanced armies and navies ever built. On the surface, peace. Underneath, a volcano about to explode. Europe had split itself into two armed gangs. On one side, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, calling themselves the Triple Alliance. On the other side, France, Russia, and Britain, the Triple Entente. Every country had signed agreements promising to defend the others if attacked. It sounds reasonable. It was actually insane, because it meant that any small conflict between two countries could drag every single one of them into war automatically. And it wasn't just the alliances. Nationalism was exploding across the continent. Ethnic groups inside the massive Austro-Hungarian Empire, Serbs, Czechs, Poles, were demanding their own countries. Germany was jealous of Britain and France's massive colonial empires and wanted its own slice of the world. And every major power was spending enormous amounts of money building bigger armies, bigger navies, bigger guns. Everyone was ready for war. Nobody thought it would actually come.
The Assassination. 28 of June, 1914. Sarajevo, Bosnia. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the entire Austro-Hungarian Empire, is riding through the city in an open-top car with his wife Sophie. It's a warm summer morning. The streets are lined with people. Hidden in that crowd, 6 young Bosnian Serb nationalists, armed with pistols and grenades. Their mission? Kill the Archduke. Bosnia had been swallowed up by Austria-Hungary, and these young men wanted it free. The first assassination attempt fails. A grenade bounces off the car and explodes under the wrong vehicle. Franz Ferdinand survives and continues his visit. But then, his driver takes a wrong turn. The car stalls, and standing right there on the pavement, just a few feet away, is 19-year-old Gavrilo Princip, one of the assassins who had given up and stopped into a nearby deli. He pulls out his pistol. 2 shots. Franz Ferdinand, dead. His wife Sophie, dead. And somewhere in the background, without anyone realizing it yet, the clock starts ticking on 20 million lives.
The domino effect. Now here's where things get crazy. What happens next is the most catastrophic chain reaction in human history. Austria-Hungary blames Serbia for the assassination. They send Serbia an ultimatum so deliberately humiliating it was designed to be rejected. Serbia agrees to almost everything. Not good enough. Austria-Hungary declares war. 28 July 1914, exactly 1 month after the assassination. Russia, Serbia's big Slavic brother, starts mobilizing its army. Germany, bound to Austria-Hungary, declares war on Russia. France, allied with Russia, is dragged in. Germany declares war on France too. To attack France quickly, Germany invades neutral Belgium. Britain, which had promised to protect Belgian neutrality, declares war on Germany. 6 weeks, 1 assassination, and now almost every major power in Europe is at war. The alliance system that was supposed to prevent war had instead guaranteed it. The lights were going out all over Europe, and nobody knew how to switch them back on.
The trenches. Germany's plan was simple. Knock out France in 6 weeks, then turn around and crush Russia. It very nearly worked. German forces swept through Belgium and got within 30 miles of Paris. Then the French and British pushed back at the Battle of the Marne. The German advance stopped. And then, something nobody had planned for happened. Both sides started digging. Trenches, running nearly 700 kilometers, from the Belgian coast all the way to the Swiss border. A scar across the face of Europe. And there both sides sat. For 4 years. Life in the trenches was a daily nightmare. Mud so thick men drowned in it. Rats the size of cats. The constant sound of artillery. The smell of death. Soldiers lived in narrow ditches, soaking wet, freezing cold, waiting for the order to go over the top and charge across open ground into machine gun fire. And the battles. The Battle of Verdun, 10 months of fighting, 700,000 casualties combined. The front line barely moved. Then the Battle of the Somme. On just the first day, the first single day, the British Army suffered 57,000 casualties. Nearly 20,000 killed. In one day. For a few miles of mud. The technology of the day massively favoured the defender. Machine guns, barbed wire, artillery. Generals kept ordering charges anyway. The results were always the same. Catastrophic.
America enters. Russia exits. By 1917, the war had reached breaking point. France was exhausted. Entire units of the French army mutinied, refusing to attack anymore. Russia was in chaos. Germany was slowly starving. Then, 2 massive events changed everything within months of each other. First, Russia collapsed. Revolution swept the country. Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown. The Bolsheviks under Vladimir Lenin seized power, promising to end the war immediately. Russia signed a humiliating peace deal with Germany and dropped out. Germany rushed its eastern armies westward for one final push. Second, America entered. Germany had gambled on an all-out submarine war to starve Britain before America could react. But when German U-boats started sinking American ships, and a secret German telegram was intercepted proposing a German-Mexican alliance against the United States, America had had enough. On 6 April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. Fresh soldiers, massive resources, and enormous industrial power were now on the Allied side. The question was whether they could arrive in time. The war at sea and Gallipoli. Meanwhile, the war was spreading beyond Europe. At sea, Britain used its powerful navy to blockade Germany, stopping food and supplies from getting in. Slowly, Germany was being starved. By 1917, German civilians were surviving on turnips. Germany hit back with submarines, U-boats, prowling the Atlantic and sinking everything in sight. In May 1915, a German U-boat sank the British passenger ship Lusitania. 1,198 people died, including 128 Americans. The world was horrified. In the Middle East, Britain tried to knock the Ottoman Empire, Germany's ally, out of the war by attacking Gallipoli in 1915. Australian, New Zealand, British and French troops landed on the beaches. They were pinned down immediately under fire from the high ground above. 8 months later, after 250,000 casualties on each side, the Allies quietly packed up and left, having achieved absolutely nothing. The final year. Spring 1918. Germany launched its last gamble. Massive offensives using brand new stormtrooper tactics. Fast-moving elite soldiers punching deep holes in Allied lines rather than grinding forward slowly. It worked brilliantly at first.
Germany advanced further in days than they had in years. Paris came under artillery bombardment. Many people thought the war was finally lost. But Germany had used up its last reserves of men and supplies to achieve it. There was nothing left. On 8 August 1918, the Allies counterattacked at Amiens. Tanks, infantry, artillery, a coordinated assault that shattered German lines. Ludendorff called it the Black Day of the German Army. Entire divisions surrendered without fighting. The German army's will was broken. For the next 100 days, the Allies drove forward relentlessly. American troops were arriving at 10,000 per day. Germany's allies, Bulgaria, the Ottomans, Austria-Hungary, surrendered one by one. Revolution broke out in German cities. The Kaiser abdicated and fled to the Netherlands. And then, at 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, the guns stopped. Silence fell across the Western Front for the first time in 4 years. The Great War was over.
The aftermath. The peace that followed was almost as devastating as the war itself. The Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept full blame for the war, stripped it of territory and colonies, demolished its military, and demanded crippling reparations payments. Germany was humiliated, broken, furious. A generation of European men was simply gone. 10 million soldiers dead, 21 million wounded, 6 to 10 million civilians killed. And then the 1918 influenza pandemic, spreading on the movements of wartime soldiers, killed another 50 million people worldwide. The Ottoman Empire collapsed, and Britain and France carved up the Middle East between themselves, drawing borders with little regard for the people living there, borders whose consequences the world is still living with today. The Russian Revolution produced the Soviet Union, and the humiliation of Versailles produced, in a small Austrian-born corporal who had fought in the trenches, a burning rage that would eventually set the world on fire all over again. 20 million graves, one wrong turn, one pistol, 2 shots. The war to end all wars ended nothing. It only planted the seeds for something even worse. So here's my question for you. Do you think World War I was inevitable? Or could it have been stopped? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see how all of this led directly to World War II, that video is right up there. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this, subscribe. There's a lot more history like this coming. I'll see you in the next one.